Welcome back, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sogcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Matt.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Owen.
The Mariners are currently 22 and 23. Still one game below 500, but middle and around. Right where they need to be. They're staying stagnant. They're not dropping a bunch of ground, so.
One step forward, one step backwards. And then another step forwards and another step backwards. I mean, yeah, we're just riding the current right now. We're trying to keep up with the middle of the pack. Hang around 500 as long as we can until they can really go. I mean, things have been good and not good. They've been better. I think things have been better this last week and a half than they have been the first month of the season.
I don't know. That Boston series was rough. We won the first game, but then just got absolute dicked. I mean, it was so bad. It was shit stomped and just taken behind the woodshed. It was a horrible series. That was super frustrating. Also, one thing that really, really pissed me off, this made me so upset. In game 1 in the Boston series, the Mariners were winning 9-1 in the 9th inning. We had a runner on third, and Caballero hits a fly ball into the outfield, deep into the outfield, to the warning track. They catch it, and the Mariners did not send Suarez home. They held him at third as to not run up the score, and that infuriated me.
Soft.
It's so soft.
Yeah.
And you look at that, Boston, the next 2 games, they didn't stop scoring on us over and over and over again. I mean, double digit or 9-4 and then 12-3. They didn't, when it was 7-3, they didn't, let's not score any more runs. They kept scoring. I cannot believe at the major league level the Mariners chose not to score a run. And what's even more frustrating about that is it takes an RBI. And what's even more frustrating about that is it takes an RBI away from Caballero. Stats matter, especially a rookie. Every single stat that he can build matters. And you took an RBI away from him that he absolutely deserved because what? You wanted to save Boston's feelings? That pissed me off. I'm pissed.
I agree with the RBI thing because Caballero's been doing that. He's a sack fly guy. He's been super, super productive. If it's not a sack fly, it's a line drive. He gets on base. He does his thing. He works the count. He's great. So to rob him of an RBI like that is pretty frustrating.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of as a reason not to just keep piling on there, and there is really not much of a reason, but they just traveled to Boston. I mean, they want to kind of save their energy for the rest of the series. I could tell they wanted to go home at some point. They're like, let's get this over with and go home. It looked like the Mariners batters at the end of the game were like, yep, just pound it into the ground and let's get out of here. Because I don't know why. I think maybe they were tired. I don't know. I can't tell. This is the only thing I can speculate to make it reasonable that you definitely score that run always in that game. If Caballero hits a fly ball deep enough to the outfield, you tag up and you score. I don't understand that move either, but I don't know. The only thing I can think of is they just traveled. They're trying to recover from the last series into this series and stay fresh and just try to go to the hotel and rest for the next day. But
you can't run 90 feet.
I think Suarez could have ran the 90 feet.
I think we always score that.
And
run.
that is a coaching decision. They chose not to send him. They told Suarez to stay at third on that. It's not like Suarez did it on his own. And that takes away a run scored from Suarez and an RBI from Caballero because we wanted to be friendly and nice. We need to hold their hands. That's bullshit.
So soft, bro. You keep the boot on the neck. It's unlikely that they would ever come back, but there's been plenty of games where they score. The home team will score 10 runs in the 9th inning. You just don't give them that chance. You just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, I mean, the best teams, they don't let you come up for a breath of air. They keep your head underwater. They make you feel like that you're worthless. And that carries into the next day. Like, we showed them that we're soft. And then what'd they do the next day? They stomped us. They came out and hit the ball all over the field. And it's Fenway. Fenway, there's always a lot of offense at Fenway. It's a home field advantage for Boston to be at their home park. They practice hitting balls off the monster. You see how Devers goes oppo? Like, he practices hitting balls out into the left field corner from the left side of the plate. We were in their house, and they showed us, like, they got embarrassed that first day, and then there was blood in the water. And they showed us what a team that can really, like, do damage does. They showed us that if they get embarrassed like that, they're coming back twice as hard. And the Red Sox were on like a 4-game losing streak too. Like Kenley Jansen blew a couple saves. They had a rough time, so they were already trying to turn it back around because they've had a good season. The entire AL East is games above 500. They all have 25 or more wins over there. So the Mariners, like I was saying before, it was a test for the Mariners to go over there and play Boston. And now we're playing the Braves as well. And it's been good and bad. Like, it's a roller coaster right now. And things need to really come together, be consistent. And a guy that needs to be consistent is Matt Brash. Like, with, let me put it in context too. Like, we don't have Munoz right now. We lost Penn Murphy, and we don't really know when he's coming back.
Munoz hasn't even started a rehab assignment or anything.
Yeah, no,
Bro, is he dead?
No idea.
He keeps
might
getting
be
pushed back.
Yeah.
Because I have him on my IL on my fantasy team, so I'm able to like just get like daily updates. And yeah, he was. I mean, they were predicting that he was going to come back all the way in the Oakland series. They thought that he might be available to return, and he's been having more and more setbacks. I think he had to get another shot in his shoulder for pain management and stuff like. So. I don't know. Yeah, no rehab start, no timetable for him, no timetable for Dylan Moore yet. Like, as he started his rehab assignment, he should be getting close, I think. But.
Yeah, we'll look into that. But, I mean, the whole context of Matt Brash sucking, we don't have some pieces that we thought we would have. Our expectations are really high for our bullpen, and we've been missing pieces and still killing it. I mean, like we've said, Topa, Spire, even Gott sometimes has been decent, but like we've had some guys really step up to fill those roles where we're really missing our best back end guy in Munoz, where Penn Murphy was holding it down as a mid reliever, like a lower leverage situation guy for a while. He was able to fill in any role. And now it's like they had Brash in almost every high leverage situation, and he's not been spotting well. Like, he tries to let his pitches do the work, and he's got to figure it out. He's got to be able to locate a little bit better, even if that means he's taking a little bit of spin off of his stuff or velocity off of his stuff.
Real quick, an update on Dylan Moore. Per Keith Hernandez says that he'll be starting his rehab assignment in High A Everett pretty soon.
Good.
Yeah.
Get him some work in. That'll be nice.
Yeah, maybe we can get Colton Wong out of here or something. I don't know.
Can we send Brash down too?
So, yeah, that's the situation here.
Brash
with
pitched good today. He's just not consistent. He totally
Okay,
screwed the pooch earlier this week. I think it was on Monday or Sunday. One of the two.
Are you advocating for him to not get set down or to?
I'm just saying, today he pitched fine. We just need some consistency out of him.
Like when my last game I went to, Colton Wong went 3 for 3.
Not Colton Wong, Matt Brash.
No, I know that.
He's saying
I'm making
guys,
a comparison.
Guys that are struggling that maybe we have to do
they have like a
with.
good outing or a good game or whatever.
So these guys do have good outings and good times too. But I mean, Brash, he did blow the tie game. He came in a high leverage spot and like walked a guy and hit a guy. And I mean, there is talk about Matt Brash being sent to the minor leagues, but I honestly think it's a thing where we're lacking in depth, like I've just explained. To put it in context, we can't lose a guy like Brash the way he performs when he's good, like he did today. Came in and struck out the side. I think it's a thing we're going to let him figure it out at the major league level because he has elite stuff. And we're lacking in depth right now.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And like, who knows, maybe after some of those rocky outings that he had in a row, if Penn Murphy and Munoz were both healthy, yeah, maybe there's a realistic chance that Brash would have been sent down during that time.
Yeah,
but
there's
it's just
more room.
not in the cards right now. It's just we can't do it health-wise. So, yeah, probably just let him figure it out at the major league level. And who knows? I mean, it is very real possibility that he could get sent down at some time this year, especially if we have a more healthy and full bullpen core. But right now, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's been a mess with Brash. Like, we know how good he can be. It's the same with Julio. Like, we know how good these guys are. They're both still young. Like, they're both still learning a lot. They both need to take a step in the maturity range, you know, like they need to really figure out how to be the most effective and productive player consistently, because we see flashes of it right now, but it's not like we can't trust them. There's not a lot of trust in it. It's just like, okay, these guys that are really good are really kind of fucking up, and it's hard. It's hard. Like, that's why we're a 500 team, I think. A lot of guys on our team are like that, where it's like we see flashes, but there's no consistency here. And there needs to be a flip that switches at some point, some fire, something. I don't know what it is, but what are you guys thinking?
I was just thinking real quick with consistency, starting pitchers have been consistent. Like, honestly, it's kind of funny. Our worst starter right now is Luis Castillo, which is shocking, but...
I don't know. Marco got lit the fuck up.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Marco got absolutely demolished.
Castillo pitched in the game where we lost 9-4 against the Red Sox. Marco pitched in the game where we lost 12-3.
He got pulled in like the second or third.
Yeah.
It was the second inning.
He didn't make it past the second
That
inning.
ERA,
Dude,
though.
come on.
So I guess,
But
I mean,
Flexen
Marco's...
pitched in that game, and Flexion did all right for a couple innings.
So I missed the rest of that game because I was at the T-Birds playoff game. But I saw that in the second inning they put Gott in immediately, which was weird. Why? It was the second inning with 2 outs also, and they put Gott in to get out of that inning. And I thought that was so weird that they immediately just didn't go to Flexen.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's what Flexen's there for. Like, obviously he doesn't have the stuff this year, but he can throw multiple innings. So use him as a long inning reliever. Have him throw 3, 4, 5 innings if possible. The game was already a fucking blowout. So
That's essentially what he did, and he pitched well.
Yeah, it was just split up. He pitched 3 innings to end the game, or like late in the game, instead of like right after Marco. And I remember preseason when we were like, oh, okay, maybe they'll start flexing sometimes.
Nope.
Before we knew Robbie Ray was going to get hurt, we were like, okay, Flexen's in the pen. Will they always start Marco, or will they have Flexen make some starts, or maybe they'll piggyback Marco and Flexen? That was what I was saying, and I remember especially Nate or you guys were kind of like, nah, I don't see them like having Marco go 3 and Flexen go 3 or 4, but I mean, I thought that was the situation to do it. I was like, ooh, it's gonna happen. They're gonna pitch in the same game. They're gonna piggyback him because Marco's getting blown up and Flexen's the long relief guy. And yeah, I don't know what order of operations they were trying to accomplish there. I think even yesterday, like, they put in Gott. This is the game against the Braves yesterday on Friday. They put in Gott in a situation when there were 2 guys on and 2 outs. I don't know what they have on paper or what kind of statistical analysis they have. Gott throws a good cutter, and that's about it. But I thought they should have gone straight to Topa, who they went to after got blown up. He got 2 hits, gave up a run. Then they ended up putting in Topa. I'm like, just go straight to Topa.
For sure.
Skip the Gott part.
I agree.
What kind of bullshit like statistic analysis do you have telling you to pitch Gott in this highest leverage situation where like the game is ours right now? We're in the lead.
It's that granular data, bro. I'm telling you.
When we're in the lead, you don't pitch Gott. Like, that pissed me off. So I don't know what kind of thing they're doing behind the scenes or what they see. But, like, they need to figure out the roles that they're playing in the bullpen and, like, how to manage that a little bit better to put the pitchers in the best situation to succeed. Because they put Gott in a situation where it was hard for him to succeed because he's a middle-range reliever. It's not like he has insane stuff. He has a good cutter. That's it. Like, we have other guys, but they're scared to use Brash, and they used him the day before, and like he's been shaky. I don't know why you don't go straight to Topa.
That whole Boston series should just be forgotten about. It was a shit show.
This was in the Atlanta series too, so this is ongoing. I mean, we're watching this unfold in a way where we're like, okay, I see a different kind of way to deploy our bullpen and our pitching after the starting pitching is done, but they got to figure that out. I mean, it's been shaky, and these are the types of things that it's been kind of shaky. But it's hard. It's hard. Those are the types of things that need to change if we're going to be a winning team. Like, we're sticking around 500. This team needs to start going somewhere because the rest of the league looks damn good. We have high expectations. We're expecting to be in the playoffs this year. 81 wins is 500. We need to be 10 games over 500 by the end of the season. I mean, something's got to start going here. We're already a quarter of the way through the season. We just passed the quarter mark, and I like that we're around 500. I just don't like that we haven't seen anything like huge happen. We haven't seen the boys on fire yet, and it's been a month and a half.
It's been
1 week since I looked at me.
What's up, Owen?
I was gonna say, like, I wonder if I'm suffering from like recency bias because I cannot remember how Brash, like, how did he finish the season last year?
He was nasty.
He was so
Okay.
good. Yeah, lockdown, like borderline untouchable. You put him in when you need to strike a guy out.
He was locating his slider and everything, and
He's the dude who put Jose Ramirez in the dirt.
yeah, on opening day, that was hilarious.
Yeah, so he has the stuff. He just doesn't have the consistency that we need him to have right now.
And right now he has no location. I mean, today he did pitch well, but it has been
Rough.
I guess before we completely write off the Boston series, there is one amazing, incredible thing to talk about.
Big dumper.
You big dumped on him.
Cal Raleigh did something that has never been done in Fenway Park history. That stadium is like 119 years old or something.
The oldest current stadium.
And he did something that's never been done. He hit, was it two, or what was it was just the home runs from each side of the plate, let alone the fact that he hit a 2-run home run left-handed and a 2-run home run right-handed. And the icing on the cake, the home run he hit right-handed left the stadium. He
Onto Lansdowne.
hit it completely out of the park. That was cool to see.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh, he grew up a Boston Red Sox fan in the area.
Big Veritek guy.
Yeah, big Veritek
Switch
guy.
hitting catcher.
Yeah, so it's Veritek switch hitting catcher.
He never did it.
Cal Raleigh switch hitting catcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, Veritek played most of his career there, if not all of his career there, and he never did it. So, I mean, this is special, man. Cal Raleigh, he's a big hitting catcher. It's rare to have a catcher that produces offensively the way Cal is able to. Like, even though it's a low average, high power type situation, and we haven't seen him hit bombs from the right side like he does the left. And man, that was something special. He put that ball into the night. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it was really cool. And
Just
there's
about vaporized it.
there's a Red Sox fan up at the top of the monster
Double
pulling a
bird.
double bird. And then I saw a picture of there's a Mariners fan a couple rows down from him, and he was like double birding the guy giving the double birds too. So it was really cool. Cal is something special. It's his second year. He just keeps getting better. I don't know. Something about Cal Raleigh. It tickles me a little bit, man, to have a switch hitting catcher that works with the pitchers so well. He can throw guys out at second base, and he can do it with the stick. Like, I think Cal Raleigh is going to be around for a while. I can't wait till we actually like sign him up.
Speaking of throwing runners out on bases, I am starting to get a little worried about Kellenick's base stealing ability.
He's been caught a lot.
He has been getting caught quite a bit, and it's not the wheels thing. I mean, he's a fast enough dude, so I still think he's just not getting good jumps. He's not getting good reads on the pitcher. And he's done kind of both things where, one, he's leaving late, getting a late jump and being able to get thrown out. Or there's been a couple times where he's leaving too early. He's trying to jump the gun, and then he's able to get picked off easily. So Kellenick's game, he's still performing very well. Obviously, he's cooled down a little is his base stealing ability, which has kind of been an issue.
We got to cut him a break because, like, the last 2 years, he never got on base. He doesn't know how to
He doesn't
steal.
know what to do out there.
He's kind of, he like, gets a hit, and then he's just riding that high, and then he's like, oh, shit, like, I have to steal. What do I do? When do I go?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. Kelenic is getting on base a lot more, and I'm sure that he wants to show that he has that ability. It's just he looks tense. He's not in time with the pitcher, you know. He's not in tune with the moment. He's kind of, I think he's more in his own head, a little too rigid. You know how, like, when you perform your best at anything, like when I'm playing pool, it has to be smooth, but also, like, concise, you know? And if I'm too tight and in my head, like, everything's too, like, I'm gripping it too hard, I'm trying to, like, push and pull, but then if I let go and I'm like, yeah, have a little bit of artistic ability as well as, like, there's, you know, you kind of have to mix the two things together and get in the flow state and understand the moment, read the pitcher, and, like, be in tune with really small natural movements and things, and, like, be loose but also ready to perform your best. And I think Kelenic, he's a little bit tight. He's on the tight side. And when he does get more loose, when the boys are all more loose and things are rolling, he will steal more bases. I don't think there's any reason to worry. He has just had bad jumps or been picked off. But he's going to keep trying to do that. I think that's the kind of guy we need to be stealing bases. And it's worth taking that risk with him to let him get those reps in game speed so that when we need it, he's practiced and he's able to. And, I only see good things coming from Jared Kelenic. He's cooled off, a little bit of regression to the mean. He started off really fucking hot. And he's cooled off, but the clip he's working at right now looks good. Like, he looks like a better than average major league outfielder, and I think he's going to continue to do that while having hot streaks as well. So,
you know who doesn't look good? Julio. His average is almost dropping below 200. I think it's at like 209 right now.
It's like the worst on the team right now,
It's
except for
pretty bad.
Trammell.
Taylor, I only hit home runs. Trammell.
he's clutch, though. He's come up in clutch situations and hit those homers. The same with Pollock. It's like, okay, all you guys do is hit homers in clutch situations. I guess that's cool, but
Dave Sims said it today on the broadcast. He was like, it sometimes matters how many hits you get, but it more matters like what you do. That's not
like
what he
when
said.
you get those hits.
Yeah, when you get them. There you go.
yeah.
I mean, Julio's average has been way down, and he needs to figure it out. He needs to figure it out quick. And Owen was talking about average right before the pod started, and like it's not the best metric.
Yeah, no, I was on Mariners Twitter, and I saw a user say that average is no longer the best metric to use. And I was like, what do you use then? Because I don't know. I whenever I look at somebody, I look at their average first and foremost. I'm like, okay, if they're hitting 250 and up, they're like a pretty decent hitter. And if they're hitting, below 250 with, 10 home runs, then they're below average. So I don't know what metric to go off of if the average is no longer like the standard.
Yeah, so stats have changed a bit where, like, there's more advanced stats that dig into the basic slash line like we're used to, batting average, on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS, right? That's kind of what we look at. But things have changed where, like, it used to be when we're growing up and everything, we think a 300 hitter is an elite hitter. They're a contact hitter, they get on base, they're, like, that's the elite mark. That has changed a lot. Like, very few hitters hit 300 now. Even the best hitters are kind of in the 285 range. Like, I think everything's kind of dropped to be, like, 300 is crazy. And usually the guys hitting 300 aren't power hitters. So, like, Julio, for example, like, what do we expect from Julio? We expect him to hit what?
280.
Yeah, 280,
Okay.
285.
Yeah, I'd say 270, 280. But with power too, right? He's kind of a mix of average and power. Like, I think he's a guy like Ronald Acuna Jr. who is destroying it right now.
Yeah, but right now I'd say he's a mix of bad and not good.
Yeah. The style of player that he is, the type of talent he has will hopefully look like that at its peak.
And also, I just want to quick interject. It's not that Julio is a shit player or anything like that. He is just really, really struggling.
Sophomore slump, baby.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah.
I mean, we said that at the beginning of the seasons. The sophomore slump is very, very real. Also, to piggyback kind of on the stats thing, yeah, advanced stats have completely changed the game and changed how we look at players and stuff like that. But I'm still kind of this old head where the main stats still matter to me. So like
The slash line.
yeah, the slash line. So, like, oh, their expected average should be way higher. Their XBA is through the roof. They should be like a 330 hitter. And it's like, but they're not. That's great that on paper they should be hitting better. And yeah, maybe that points to down the line they will improve. But it doesn't change the fact that they're not hitting. It doesn't matter how good you look on paper. It's not like a role-playing game. It's real stats, and you have to hit the ball. And yes, average is kind of overrated stat now. It's not looked at as highly as it once was. But still, it doesn't change the fact to me. And I'm like, not a lot of people have this same opinion as me, but it's like, it doesn't matter what it says. If you're not hitting the ball, you're not hitting the ball.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, Patrick. I think the stats we have, all the Statcast stuff, it's getting way too granular. For one, baseball is trying to grow the game, and these advanced stats, like as a person who has played baseball most of their adult life and watches baseball and listens to baseball, these stats, like that wOBA shit that you talking about and the WRC, I have to look those up like from time to time to like really remember what they are. You think some random person that goes to a Mariners game like twice a year is gonna know what that means?
Oh boy, his wOBA's really down right now.
I know, like, oh my God.
Dude, shut
And then-
up.
Well, I
Get
mean,
me a hot dog.
if you're a baseball fan and all these stats are coming up, like, learn about them. Like, you learn about them slowly. Like, it's not like they're being thrown in your face, but you should know about them. Like, say, batting average isn't the way to judge a hitter necessarily. And you're right. I mean, there's more informed stats now. Like, they're funny words. They sound BABIP, wOBA. I know it sounds funny, but BABIP just means batting average on balls in play. It's a more informed stat on batting average. Like, okay, when he hits the ball, when he puts it in play, what is his batting average? So you get an idea of like how his strikeouts affect his batting average. wOBA, it's weighted on base average, and that stat is really trying to combine this full slash line, like the original stats we're looking at: batting average, on base percentage, and slugging. Like, wOBA is trying to combine those three things into one number, so you understand how valuable that player is. And like, you just have to kind of use new stats that work for you. Learn about them. Find one that you're like, that makes sense to me. I'm going to look at that and see how productive he is. Expected stats is a whole different place. Like, Patrick's saying, like, expected stats, but that's also based on new technology that's reading the ball in the ballpark. Exit velocity, barrel rate, launch angle. And on average, when it's hit at this speed, at this angle, it's a hit or an out. And like, it gives you an idea of, like I was saying before, if someone's barreling the ball up but hitting it right at someone all the time, like they're getting unlucky, and you're able to like see that in the stats if you dig in and are a stat head.
You can see it in their average,
And
too,
if you
'cause
are a
they'll be-
real baseball fan and like stats, like, dig in a little bit, have some fun. Like, it is goofy. A lot of things are goofy. I have to look up new stats on the page all the time, but I love learning about it, and I love that it informs me about how the player is doing. They're peripheral stats that can inform how well the player is playing, regardless of the actual like result on the field.
And see, and like that, and I get all that, but again, the issue. So like BABIP, it's like, well, this would be their average if they didn't strike out all the time. But it doesn't. That doesn't. They still strike out all the time, so it still affects their average. It's like, well, in a fantasy world, this is what they should be doing, but it's not what they're doing. You can look at all these stats and be like, oh, well, when he hit it this hard to this direction, that's a hit 75 out of 100 times, but it wasn't a hit that time, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Baseball, you can't guess baseball. You can't say he's going to do this. Like, you never know what's going to happen on a baseball field, which is part of the romanticism of the game. And I love watching baseball. I love the result that occurs regardless of the numbers on a page. I love knowing who a player is regardless of the numbers that are representing him right now. And I'm able to separate these things. Like, I can watch the game as a baseball romantic, but I can also watch the game as a stat head and like break down why they're doing something, or like what decision is being made, or like when this happens, is this unlucky or is this lucky? And I think that stats can start determining things like that now, where before it was literally just watching the game being like, oh, he's been unlucky. But now stats can help inform that.
See, I don't like that. It's getting too nuanced. Like, we're seeing like managers making decisions based purely on these like random bullshit stats. Like, oh, Trevor Gott, last time he pitched in 85-degree weather on a Tuesday, struck out 3 people in a row. And it's like,
that's honestly what it feels like.
Yeah,
that's barely
yeah.
an exaggeration.
Yeah.
And like, I understand the romanticism. Like, I love that. It's just so random. But when managers are making these like calls and putting people in, or pinch hitting for whatever these random wOBA, BABIP plays stats are,
Those are more like left and right splits on what kind of pitches are they performing well on.
It's
like, those are
replacing that
different
romanticism with roboticism. It's
Yeah.
just like, this dude is like expected to perform like this, like a fucking robot, and it's just like, that's stupid. Like,
Dude.
I do love data. I like charting stuff and looking at stuff, but I think we're moving away from what baseball is and moving into like accounting almost, and I don't like that.
Yeah, man, I definitely see that too. Like, it is more robotic than ever. The front office and the analytics department are making more decisions from behind the scenes, and I've been talking about it, and I don't like it. Like, I like the game to be more romantic. You play the hot player. You play the right guy at the right time, because you have a feel for the humans on your team that are performing every day. And that's what I love about baseball. And you're right, it is getting very granular. And I think, like, the front office and the analytics department has to take a step back. The coaching staff has to say, yo, guys, you're pushing a little too hard for things that are a little too specific. Like, do you really think this makes a difference when these players are at the plate? Like, humans have different characteristics than the stat page shows. I like watching the player perform to their ability. There's some guys that can't perform under pressure. There's some guys that thrive under pressure, and that's not on the stat page. There's no clutch stat.
I bet you could quantify it though if you wanted to.
I thought there was a clutch stat.
Oh, I mean, there's stats that try to inform
I see.
how they
Okay.
do when
It's
the
like that wOBA
situation
shit,
is tense.
They take in a whole bunch of variables. Like,
But hey, I think stats and baseball need to be a little more separated. I see what you guys are saying. Like, I like the stats because it informs me about how a player's performing. And I see what they're doing on the field too. It just helps me see more, like dig in more to like what's happening. And I'm not looking at expected stats. I'm looking at what happened. But it's I do think it needs to be separated from what the teams are trying to do. They need to play pure baseball, and stats can get in the way, and we've seen that happen.
I'm pretty split on it. I'm not such a stat head. I'm also not totally against it. I really only care when they're like really good stats or really bad stats. Anything in the middle is so hard for me to wrap my head around. It's like, oh, he's got a 262 FLBX. You're like, don't care, man. Seriously, don't give a shit. It's like, but this guy has a 1.4 OXBC39. It's like, damn, that's sick, bro.
That's awesome.
Like-
Great. What's his batting average though?
Look,
There you go.
It
But,
really
I
is
mean,
something you have to dig into.
But that's, yeah, for sure. I understand what you're saying, but where I'm coming from is that I only care if they're really high or really low, and then you have to give me another player's stats, like someone who I know is good at that thing you're trying to express in a number, and so I can kind of compare it in my head and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see why this guy we're talking about is not that good when the league average is this, or the best guy at it is this.
Yeah, every time I
And
see
so
a new stat, I do
that's
that
easy,
too.
and I think that's fine. And I think you can talk about baseball that way, and it's totally chill.
Yeah.
But I like watching the Mariners, and I like baseball.
Yeah.
I don't need to know a bunch of numbers.
I love watching the product.
I
on
only
the
need to know
field.
some numbers.
Yeah.
the more stats we add, the less comparable players are going to be. That's just the nature of the beast. So we're going to get to the point where we have like 10 billion different stats, wOBA to the 7th power. And it's like you can literally never compare this player to another player because their average, their RBI, their home runs literally might be the exact same, but their wOBAs are different. Like, how do you compare that? We're going to lose comparison. Like, everyone's just going to be their own unique individual batter. Like, that's...
Also, when this actually bothers me to no end. So, WAR, wins above replacement, is now a really, really used stat in displaying how good a player is over, I guess, a fringe guy. So, like, it's basically how many wins you add to your team. The problem is there is F WAR and B WAR, and they're two different quantified stats.
It's Fangraphs and Baseball Reference.
Yes.
Quantifying them in two different ways.
Yes, and it's just like, okay, so now these two different like baseball statistician companies take these stats and weigh them in a different way. And so like, who gives a shit? Like, and I get like, okay, so a really high WAR is obviously really good. But when you have two different ways to come to the same stat, it's just like, what? I don't know. I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose, and it's like giving it too much stock.
We'll just pick one then.
Yeah, no.
Just use Baseball Reference if you don't want to.
Something I want to tack onto that is like Mike Trout has like historically had a very high WAR. It's like 10 or 9.5, and it's like, well, cool. He wins 9.5 games more than the person behind him. But like, who gives a shit? Because the Angels haven't made the playoffs in like 15 years. What does it even matter? How is that like something you could quantify to him as like a Hall of Fame player when he's like never been? Well, he's been to the playoffs, but it's been so long. One time.
It's to show how much better he is than the league or like the replacement level player, like the guy who can get called up from AAA, or like the guy who's on the verge of getting called up from AAA. Basically, like the replacement level player is a guy who just is good enough to stick around.
And I will say against that is like, yeah, this isn't as much of a team stat as it is just for the player. So this is a player personalized stat of how much wins did they add just by this guy playing.
So I think going off of what Owen was saying, what does that stat matter if Mike Trout's going to be on the Angels for the rest of his career? Like, doesn't that matter if you're looking to be like, whoa, what if Mike Trout was on the Braves? Wouldn't that be sick? We can talk about that. But since Mike Trout's not going anywhere, I mean... But he's going to be the best player on the team for 15 more years.
It still means that, because like right now his career WAR is 83.8. That means throughout his career he has won 83 more games for the Angels than they would with some other Joe Schmo playing center field. So yeah, like it's not as much of a team stat as it is just for him. Yeah.
How do you? Sorry, you can go. Matt.
Can I talk about WAR? Think about the question. How do you come up with WAR? Like, what's the question? Why would you make that stat as a statistician, as a team of statisticians? To me, like, you come up with that because you're trying to make a value system for an individual player. It's hard to do, but it's compared to everyone in the league, not just on your team. Like, it's compared to everybody in the league. It's one thing that you can put on a single player. Like, there's never been anything like that in baseball. And WAR itself is flawed. And yeah, there are two different teams, Baseball Reference and Fangraphs, who are trying to wrap their head around what's the equation, what's the like all-encompassing equation to say how much an individual player is worth. And that's the reason the stat exists, because we've never had that before. And the people that think about baseball are like, how come we can't rate a player? So they tried to do that. And I think it's going to continue to evolve. It's something that's imperfect, but it's a way that we've come up with to have a reasonable version of how valuable has he been in his career? How valuable is he to this team? How many wins does he get this team? And it's a really hard thing to pin down. But that's like that equation is crazy. Have you looked at the WAR equations?
No, I don't.
Yeah, see? Like I have. And it's very detailed, and those people are nerdy as fuck putting those stats together. So, like they work hard to put a stat on how good an individual player can be compared to just a some Joe Schmo player.
how do
And
they-
and it's cool. I think it's really fucking cool. It's not that WAR informs me about how good a player is. You know how good they are if you follow baseball. You know Mike Trout has fucking 10 WAR seasons because he's been amazing, man. So I don't think it's a great way to gauge a baseball player, but it's something fun to look at as a full like picture of a whole career, like to say like how to rank the best players ever. And it's just one version of it, and it's going to continue to evolve. So, and I mean, all in all, stats are stats. And if you're into stats, you're going to go look and learn about them. You're going to get over the weird names. You're going to get in there and figure out what's what. And if you don't care that much and you love watching baseball, you're just going to watch baseball because you can tell how good they're doing. You can tell if they're getting unlucky. You don't need numbers to tell you that. Like, you know how much they're striking out if you watch it every day. So you don't need those stats. But if you want to, they're all there. And I think the more stats, the better. I just don't like how it's coming into the whole analytics department, front office making decisions on the field, because that
I think that's where we can all agree.
yeah, it takes the love out of baseball.
What a sick job, though, right? It's building pivot tables and shit for baseball teams.
I guess so.
I know. I mean, there's like people that legitimately love following baseball stats that don't even like the game of baseball. Like they don't even like sports. But
Good for them.
yeah, I mean, yeah, with baseball stats, like super analytic heavy guys. There's like people that take joys in that don't even really care about baseball. They just like all the numbers and stuff. And there's a lot in baseball.
So yeah, Julio's average is really bad. Julio will turn it on, guys. Like,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like
He
I've
will.
said before, he has tons of talent. It's not something physical. He looks young, spry. He's, I think, a little bit tight and over anxious, but he did walk 3 times today on Saturday.
Sure did.
A little bit more patient. Not a lot of pitches that were like around the zone, so they were easy takes for him. But I think he needs that to slow
He
down
definitely
a bit.
does, dude.
And
He needs to be looking at those pitches that he shouldn't be swinging at and
Yeah.
not swinging at them and being like, oh, yeah, good thing I didn't swing at that.
Yeah.
Keep that in the little memory bank for the next time it happens.
Get the feel for a good take.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too worried about Julio's trajectory. I am worried about how his bad batting average is affecting the team right now. And we were talking about how we need to be above 500 by a certain amount. When Julio's not doing very well, it makes it really hard to do that. That's what's annoying right now. Not that I think Julio's bad and is going to be bad.
Right.
I've got a question for you guys. When is it time to hit the panic button? Like,
All-Star break.
Yeah.
All-Star break is a very nice place to stay. But it depends, right? If we stay around 500, All-Star
Are we
break.
talking about Julio panicking or panicking about the team?
Both, but I think the
All-Star break.
teams.
All-Star break.
I think
literally both. All-Star break.
I think
Oh,
the
which
team.
one? Both. Well, same answer.
Yeah.
If the team stays around 500 into the All-Star break, I'm pretty happy. But if we start falling behind around Father's Day, if we're, say, 5 games under 500 around Father's Day, that panic button gets a lot closer and bigger in my mind. So from Father's Day to the All-Star game is kind of where I'm like, do we hit the panic button? And this is the first time we've podcast through the first time of the season, also the first part of the season. And yeah, we're getting the full scope this year. We're riding the train. Last year, it would have felt the same way, guys. Like, literally, we were not doing much better at this point last year.
I think we were
turned it
actually
on
doing worse.
We turned it on in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got a lot to look forward to.
So middling right now is honestly not the biggest problem to have. It's okay. It's annoying.
It's annoying.
I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Like last year, like that saving grace was like the last 2 months of our schedule. We played like shitty teams. We played the A's like 4 series.
Well, we're going to go back and play the A's for 4 games coming up pretty soon.
Actually, they're coming here. We're finally, I was actually just about to bring this up. It's nice. The Mariners are finally ending this kind of long road trip that they've been on. They're coming back home after Sunday. After Sunday's game, they will finally be back for a homestand, and we're playing the A's during that. So that should be another sweep. It has to be at home against the A's.
4 games.
You know what? I'll 4-game sweeps are hard. It doesn't matter whoever you're playing. 4-game sweeps are hard. But realistically, if the Mariners, again, want to prove what kind of team they are, They should sweep, or I mean, at very minimum, take 3 of 4. But you can't have a 2-2 at home split with the Oakland A's. And it will be nice finally returning home. But yeah, there's not a rest day there's not a travel day between coming from Atlanta to Oakland. So I feel
To home.
Or
Against
yeah,
Oakland.
sorry, to home. So if I do believe that if the Mariners do drop a game in that Oakland series, it probably will be that first one, just because being tired from the travel and going from East Coast back to the West Coast.
Yeah, I can see that. They're going to be traveling back from the West Coast, and then they don't have a day off until June 1st. We play Oakland for 4, Pittsburgh Pirates come into town for 3, and then the Yankees are here for 3, and with 0 days off.
That Yankee series is going to be rough, especially with how haggard they're going to be. It's going to be a much-needed rest day after that series.
Yeah, there might be a depleted bullpen type situation. So we'll see. I'm happy they're coming home, but I'm kind of sad we had 2 off days in the long road trip, and none through this stretch through the end of the month here. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, we have to take care of business against the A's, so that's what's coming up here.
I had a quick question for you guys.
What up?
Something you'll probably know more than I do about. So today's game against the Atlanta Braves, the Braves used an opener and then brought in a long relief guy and then kept using pitchers after that in relief. And I was wondering, first of all, why did they do that? Did they just need to get their starter an extra day? And so that's just kind of what you do, just to save some arms? But are you even saving arms? That's kind of where I'm coming from. Is it even a good idea? And does it help the Mariners that they did that? Because then you have to face 5 or 6 guys that you can't rely on all of them to be solid that day. If one slips up, you're going to get some runs, which is kind of what happened, right?
Yeah, so this is actually weird. The opener is kind of a new concept. It was made popular a couple years ago by the Rays when Joe Madden was their manager. And Joe Madden has always been kind of a weird, outside-the-box thinker kind of guy. And he really popularized this idea of using an opener where you start the game with a reliever and then go to your set starter and have him pitch the second inning on. It's kind of a weird concept, and it's not as popular as it was. It definitely ran its course about 3 years ago, and maybe even a few years longer than that, honestly. But yeah, it was kind of popular, and then it's recently died down. And yeah, I guess kind of the idea behind it is you start off with a one-off pitcher, so
Just get through the first inning.
Just get through the first inning, and then you go to your starter. I personally think it's kind of a weird concept. And obviously, yeah, it's not as popular as it once was, so it's not like some game-changing idea or strategy. But yeah, it was weird that Atlanta did that today. And the purpose of it, I mean, for saving arms or whatever, I don't really see that as the case. You're still using the same amount of pitchers, so.
Yeah, I know the case. So the reason they did that, I mean, Jesse Chavez? Something like that. He's 38 years old. He's been around for a while. He's been a starting pitcher in the past.
And he was the dude who was supposed to start today?
He's the dude who did start today. So the problem with the Braves right now is they are short on starting pitching because they had, I think his name's Hector Ynoa. He went down with his elbow. He's out for the season. He was one of their starting pitchers. He went down on March 30th. And then Max Fried, their ace and best pitcher, is expected to be back July 7th. He went down with forearm injury. And Kyle Wright also on May 15th went down with shoulder, expected to be back in July as well after the All-Star break. So
right, so they're down on starters right now.
They're down on starters. So usually I would say that teams like the Rays do it out of a place of strength where they just want to throw as many different arms against this lineup as they can today. Where here, you start off the first inning, maybe you face 4, 5, 6 batters, maybe you go 2 innings, but we're going to throw a plethora of arms at you today from both sides, all different arm angles, that's what the Rays were doing because they always have pitching strength. They're going at it from their strength. And it was fun for them to do it. It was new. But the Braves are doing it out of a place of lacking depth right now and starting pitching, unfortunately, for them.
Gotcha. So that's kind of why I'm wondering, does that benefit the Mariners?
Yes. That's
Okay, great.
why
That's
we
good for us.
exploded the fourth
Now,
inning,
what
I
about
think.
tomorrow, Sunday? It's a morning game. I think I have to be up at 9:30 to watch baseball. I can't tell you how excited I am about that. But since they used a bunch of arms today, does that mean they're going to be down guys tomorrow as well? Are they just kind of chalking this one up to like, we got to do what we got to do right now? Does that give us hope for tomorrow to take the series?
I mean, it definitely could. And also, I think part of it goes to the team that the Braves are playing, which are the Mariners, who are not hitting hot right now. So if you have a chance to just be like, well, our bullpen arms are kind of tired, but we can kind of limp wrist our way through it, I think they're willing to take that chance.
Okay.
And also, after a game like today, if they're in the middle of a homestand, I think it's the beginning of their homestand right now, they might be able to make roster moves and pull up guys. Because if they are depleted, they might be able to make roster moves and get some new fresh arms in there after this series. Tomorrow, they're pitching a guy named Jared Schuster, and he's 0-2 with a 7.24 ERA. So
Which means he's
hopefully-
going 7 deep, two-hitter.
Yeah. Mariners world, that seems like what's going to happen. But, I mean, they're lacking in starting pitching, so hopefully we can take advantage of this young lefty tomorrow and take that game too. I think we stole this one today because they're lacking in pitching depth, and we just have to pitch well against them. George Kirby's going against a really lacking young pitcher. So I think tomorrow is kind of the same situation where if we can jump on that starting pitcher and get into their bullpen and they're already tired, if they didn't make any big roster moves, then like
That's
we're in
good
it.
for
It
us,
does
yeah.
really
Cool.
affect the way
All
the
right.
Mariners can play against one of the best teams in baseball right now.
Right on. Well, thank you for answering my question. I learned something today on the podcast.
There you go. Yeah, one just to end it. It was really funny when that strategy kind of took off, and literally every team started doing it. The Mariners tried to do it a couple times, and it backfired immensely, like every single time. And yeah, it's only like certain teams that would even now, like, it's pretty much a dead strategy. And like, yeah, they were doing it today out of necessity. But yeah, teams were trying to do it because they thought it was like some ingenious plan. And
They call it using an opener, and we call it that's a bullpen day.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, literally the Rays were one of the only teams to effectively do it well because they had so many good pitchers, like with good stuff that didn't have length, but they could just mix and match all game and be okay.
Right on.
Yeah, this weird thing, the opener. And I think we will see it continue to be used, but like rarely and usually out of necessity rather than strength. So,
Well, I'm going to keep calling it a bullpen day.
yeah.
It's more or less what it is.
Okay.
All right, guys. So last week we were giving Mark Reynolds some heat because he struck out so many times.
So many times.
Yeah, he had lots of seasons where he was leading the league. So I wanted to ask you how many bombs, because I did ask last week. We didn't look it up. I looked it up, and don't cheat. How many home runs did Mark Reynolds hit in his career?
How long was his career?
Is this the guy that's been on the most strikeouts per year? Like
Yeah, that was the guy we were roasting
a
last
lot.
episode.
like several times, like 4 or 5 times.
Several times.
Okay, so Mark Reynolds played from 2007 to 2019 for 12, 13 years here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then he struck out about 1 million times, and I think
I think it's about 1 million, I think.
I'll tell you how many times. 1,927.
That's fucking terrible.
So how many home runs did he hit?
Well, it had to be a lot. He's got to be one of those guys that I think
just swings out of his
swinging,
shoes
an Adam
every
Dunn
time.
type
Yeah, you
of
think
guy.
Adam Dunn it? You think he has a lot of home runs? Do you think he was just not a good player? I mean, that's the question.
I mean,
here.
to be 13 years and
You got to be
you
like
got to
somewhat
be doing
capable.
something.
Yeah.
So
And he only got sent down one time. I think it was just a injury stint too. Like he
Okay.
played in the majors. So what's the first guess?
300.
I'm gonna let's see. I'd say put him at like 375.
Oh, and you got one?
376.
You guys are both high at 375, 376. You're doing the Price is Right
I know.
thing over
Owen's trying
there,
to
Owen.
Price is right me over here.
You know what? If it would have worked, it would have worked.
Just call me Bob Barker. You guys are high. You're over. Garrett?
I said 300.
you're also high.
So what was he doing? Not doing a
I
nothing.
will say Garrett was not very high above the actual
All right, what do we get?
297. He
Oh,
basically
I
had
fucking
300.
nailed
Yeah,
it. What are
yeah.
you talking about?
I
Yeah,
guess we're
yeah.
doing Price is Right rules.
Yeah,
so
no one
we
won.
rules. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, Garrett, you nailed it with 300. He hit about 300 home runs, which is pretty damn good,
like
to
22
be
a
honest.
season.
So, hey, good for you, Mark Reynolds. Good job.
I don't know. Is 22 a season worth
The
1900?
1900 strikeouts.
I think it was 19,000 strikeouts.
I think, yeah.
I heard it was about 1 million.
My question, we can table this if we don't like it.
No, say it.
Yeah, just go for it.
Are we at all concerned that the All-Star game is going to be in Seattle, and right now it doesn't look like we have any All-Stars on our roster?
We have all-stars.
We do. I would say George Kirby is my
George
number
Kirby's
one
an all-
all-star.
And I mean, no matter what, the way baseball does the All-Star game, which I kind of disagree with, every team gets at least one representative in the All-Star game. So that's why, like, Daniel Vogelbach has an All-Star appearance.
That was hilarious.
Because we had to send one.
And I think Yusei Kikuchi also
Yeah,
has an
yeah.
All-Star appearance.
Yeah, he
Yuri.
does.
Yeah. Whoops. Called him Yuri to his face. That was awkward. I felt so bad. I felt like a dick.
Yuri, that's like a Russian Ukrainian dude.
I think I was kind of mixing it up. It was a mix of Yusei and Nori Aoki.
Yeah.
And I
You were a
went
little
with,
nervous.
I went with Yuri, and he threw me a ball too. We were at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and I was there as a Mariners fan. So during batting practice, they were throwing me tons of balls. And Yusei Kikuchi looked at me, pointed at me, threw me a ball. I said, "Thanks, Yuri," and he just looked at me and shook his head and walked away.
Gave you stank
And
face.
I was like, "Whoa." Picked a whole bouquet of whoopsie daisies on that one. But yeah. So, anyways,
all stars. Who do we got this year?
So,
Kirby,
yeah,
right?
I mean, at least no matter what, the Mariners are going to have one representative there. Kirby most likely will be an all-star. I mean, he's in the talks right now. It's really early, but he's in the talks for Cy Young. So he most likely will be an all-star. Also, probably Bryce Miller if he continues to keep pitching.
Holy shit!
yeah, maybe. That'd be crazy. So I guess the question turns into, will we have more all-stars than our one all-star that we're required to send?
The pity all-star.
I mean, right
He's
now,
Kirby's not a pity all star.
no,
he
no,
would have
Kirby's
made it.
legit.
Yeah,
right now, I don't really see a second player doing that. Like JP's doing okay, but he's not going to be a shortstop
You
all-star.
pick JP over Kalanick?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that, like, JP's doing well, but I wouldn't say he's going to be on the all-star team. And I'd say, yeah, if Kelnick can get hot again before July, I think he'd be my second in line there. But other than that, I mean, we have to see some production from the offensive side of the ball. Like, Suarez is playing good defense, but not hitting super well. Teoscar's not going to be an all-star the rate he's striking out at, so we'll see.
I did see something interesting today. In all of baseball, out of all qualified third basemen, there's only one third baseman that does not have an error this year, and it is Eugenio Suarez. That's pretty cool. I mean, Mariners always have pretty damn good defense.
yeah. I would have said JP or Kelenic as well as somebody who's not George Kirby who can make the all-star team. But, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. What would it take for Cal Raleigh to make the all-star team?
Honestly, not a lot.
More home runs, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, catchers, but I guarantee you the start, it's going to be Adley Rutschman for the American League, the Orioles catcher.
Or
He's killing it.
Who's homie on the old Astros?
Oh,
Maldonado?
Martin Maldonado, yeah. I mean,
guy's good.
he doesn't hit for average. He's not a great hitter, but yeah, I mean, he's been one of the best catchers in the league for a decade.
Well, I hope to see Cal Raleigh on an all-star team.
He will be one day.
Yeah.
It just might not be this year.
What do you think, Owen? Who do you got on our all-star?
Aside from Kirby, I
Representatives.
mean, it's just got to be Kalanick. He's like the only person like consistently producing. He's still hitting like 280, and like I mean, Julio.
I think like the 280, 290 range, somewhere in there.
And I feel so bad for his homers have definitely slowed down because he hit like 4 in a row, 4 back-to-back games. But like his RBIs are so shitty because nobody can get on fucking base for him.
He's hitting,
that's true too.
He's hitting line drives and stuff more often. It's great instead of popping up and hitting he was hitting the ball in the air well, but I think that was kind of a product of just putting the barrel on the ball well. It wasn't that he was necessarily trying, but he seems like he's really going line drive mode instead of launch mode, which is good because it really cuts down on the infield pop-ups.
I really like the line drive, singles, doubles sometimes. Can we just get somebody on base so we can get some RBIs? He has like 7.
Got one today?
He has like 12.
Yeah. No, I love the guy. I love that he's turned it around and become one of our best players with the most promise this year. He's honestly one of our most consistent players, which is a crazy turnaround from the end of last season. So
I would love to see him be an all-star because I was a ride or die Seager guy for his whole franchise as a Mariner, and he only went once, and I think he was like an alternate. And so to have someone like a player that I really care about go, because not as an alternate but as like a starter or like a sub would be cool.
So right now we got Kirby, Kelenic, JP, and that's kind of our top 3, huh?
Yeah. I guess so. That's what we got.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I hope we heat up before the All-Star break and we get a couple guys in the discussion there. That'd be good.
I found out who coaches the All-Star game this year because I was curious about this too. Dusty Baker's coaching the American League, so that'll be pretty cool.
I think, is it not the World Series managers from the year before?
Is that how it always is?
I'm not positive on that, but I think it is.
Because it's the Phillies dude and Dusty Baker. Yeah,
yeah. I'm pretty sure if
cool.
you take your team to the World Series, then you get to coach the All-Star game the next year.
Well, look at that. I learned something else on the podcast today. Look how informative this podcast is.
Hey,
I hope you all learned something too.
Hope you guys learned a lot. Thank you guys so much for listening. And before we wrap this up, I wanted to say one more thing. Your Seattle Thunderbirds are 2023 WHL champions.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I was at the game last night with Owen and producer Nathan, and we got to watch them win it all in 5 games, and it was super, super exciting. I'm an avid, diehard Seattle Thunderbirds fan, so that's also always great for Seattle sports. And yeah, 2023 champions, Seattle Thunderbirds.
Woo!
That was awesome. Just wanted to close it out on that and totally give them a shout out. They deserved it. They had a hell of a season.
And even though their season's over, they continue to play.
Yeah, they have that weird Memorial Cup afterwards, but I mean, to us, like that's more of a Canadian thing where they take the winners of like 3 different minor league hockey teams and they all have like a round robin tournament.
That's fun.
But yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
It's really cool. But for us USA fans, the WHL championship is like the big one, and they got it. So I'll be there at opening day next year to watch them hang the banner in the rafters. And yeah, so just wanted to give them a shout out. They deserved it. Great season. And yeah, thank you guys all so much for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends, and be the most informed Mariners fan at your next office party. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk to you next week. And go Mariners!